When I tried to shove the door closed the way you see it now, the whole entire door knocked me, her, and the door completely off the hinges into the back of the house. When we got over that and the water was streaming flow, it took seconds for it to go from 5 feet inside to the top of that balcony. I immediately grabbed my mother, put her on my shoulder, grabbed onto that rail, grabbed that rail and walked her upstairs, floating on the water. When I got upstairs, there was a microwave oven out of one of the houses that was coming down the street. I grabbed it, put it on top of that deck, put her on top of the deck, and boosted her in that window. Around about that time, the water was at the edge of that balcony. When the roughness of the water finally calmed down from heading that way, it went tearing up everything in sight. The wind, everything. This house sustained it. Thank God. It was going on for about an hour, something like that. Next thing I knew, everything was still. This house was being torn apart. It was looking like this in the middle. It was like a little hole like this, and just like this in a big circle. Everything was still. When that part passed, the winds and things picked up again. This house stayed, the shop stayed. It went down, tore up everything else. We stayed for 15 days. Finally, the wind went down. Some type of way the water got contaminated. The mayor had called something about mosquitoes or something about 7 days. But the 7 days prior to that, I was out here grabbing fish and shrimp that came off the lakefront. And around about that 7th day, that water turned black and it killed everything in the water. It turned everything black, including myself. I had to get out of the water, try to wash with soap. They turned off the water. Come to find out, the police chief, the ex-police chief, I guess, under the secondary command of the police chief that is now nominated, exclaimed to the Red Cross that we were violent.
The police chief said that you guys were violent?
Yeah, everybody in New Orleans. Because people
stay out of the city.
People had been actually
give us water.
The reality of it was because we were further up, so the water that we got, we were able to get to the interstate bridge.
Evacuated.
But people were actually shooting to call attention. Look, I'm here, and they said they were shooting at them because people were setting their houses on fire to get attention because we ended up on Canal Street. We were in the used to be where we pay your tickets and fines and everything, and we ended up in that building with a lot of people that lived all around that area, and you can see in the distance fires, but people were actually just setting their houses on fire to call attention. We were doing flashlights, SOS codes to get the military to pay attention to us, and they did see us, but
they kept going.
They kept going.
It's crazy.
They couldn't rescue you because they had an agenda to rescue certain people in certain places, whether they needed to rescue you or wanted to rescue you at that time. But I want to recall you back to the code enforcements. These are not my words. These are theirs. And this is just a paragraph. Despite Atkinson's professed hardship and desire to repair the home, that's an individual, a teacher here from New Orleans, a code enforcement official recommended a fine of $500 plus $75 in hearing costs and a declaration that the property constitutes a public nuisance and blight. Labels that could lead to a foreclosure, expropriation, or demolition. She's not the only one. A lot of the people, that's just a few people that were interviewed after they went to these hearings. And they're held daily.
So they'd rather demolition your house than try and fine you.
Took the money and said it would be better for utilize the money for people to rebuild. It would be better for to destroy your life work as hazardous waste. But I was explaining to you about the thing that really caught me is when they told the Red Cross that we were violent. Police chief indicated, do not give us water because we would not evacuate. We were someone's experiment. The former mayor indicated that you wouldn't declare a state of emergency because they were pondering over who would pay for it. That was all at the cost of people's lives. So I'll never get this straight, but as I told him, I mean, if I have to become a slave for my life work or my mother's and father's work, here I am.
I got a question for you, and I hope I don't put you on the spot too much by asking you this question, but I have to ask it. You're a white person, a Caucasian male,
Yeah.
and if this was New York City or Los Angeles, do you think the government and the army and the municipal officials would have taken the same approach to their cities as the government took to New Orleans? And how do you think race enters into that?
I think it could have a very large part to do with it. I hope it didn't, but I think the signs kind of point to that it did. This is majority, I believe before the storm, majority black city. I don't believe it is anymore. It's probably about half and half now. It might be still majority. So I'd like to think it didn't, because I think hopefully we live in an era where that doesn't have to be an issue. I mean, but it appears it had something to do with it. I mean, the FEMA reaction to storms in Iowa was excellent. You could say multiple things, but you could say that they learned from their mistakes here, or you could say that there's a whole bunch of white people up there. It's probably a mixture of the two, actually. I think that this was a very hard situation for the government, though. I think that it did pose some problems that probably weren't ever seen before. But I think that if it was rich white people, the reaction would have been a lot different, obviously, because that's the way that capitalism sadly works. I feel like they don't care about the little man. It happens to be, I think I've heard numbers, 2/3 black in the city overall, and 2/3 of the black were under the poverty level, and just probably didn't care. I mean, I've heard people say, I mean, stuff about how it's a chance to get rid of all the poor people because this place had such a poverty issue. And I don't know where the truth lies. I haven't been here long. I mean, I've been here since January. Never been here before December. All I can go is what I've heard. And there are no projects anymore. Then again, I don't know the projects were a good idea from the beginning. It seems like a horrible idea to segregate the poor people, to me, into poor districts. I think that's pretty messed up, and it creates problems such as, you know, despair when you put the poorest of the poor together. So there are no projects, though. I live right next to a lot that was projects, and it's just an empty lot now. So where are those people is the question, actually, that I wonder about. Where are those people now? You know, are they out of the city? Are they in another state? Did we just tell them, go figure it out, you know, yourself? I don't know where it lies.
Anyone, I think that's when everybody on the lakefront area, that's our prestigious area.
Tax exemption, plus they got $250,000 for their property.
Selling of their property.
Selling the property. Plus they got their
whatever subsidies that they received in between this interim, and
they're free.
They're free.
And now you are responsible to pay for cosmetic repairs, or otherwise you're fined. You don't get any tax exemptions. Your water was shut off. Electricity was shut off.
I have to do the materials and the slave work myself. They were able to pass on, and we were passed over. That's how
it goes.
Profound enough?
Yeah. Thanks, man.